Hello, welcome to the show. This is Renee Mass, and today I am talking with Steve Pickering. Steve Pickering is a real estate investor flipper. And before we start talking about permits, because he's quite knowledgeable on permits, I'd like to ask him a few questions on how he got started with real estate flipping.
I got into it by buying my first house. Flipping wasn't on my horizon, but we got in at a good time when houses were relatively inexpensive. And then after living there for a few years, we saw the potential to make money. So that was our first endeavor.
I'm a firm believer that we make mistakes along the way. We learn from those mistakes. Any lessons that you'd like to share with everybody on how you just jumped in, dove right in, and learned, and you're better off for it?
At first, I thought I knew everything there was. As time goes on, we learn from our mistakes. Even if there aren't any mistakes, we learn how to do things differently. I used to think I could do everything. So, when that happens, it takes a lot longer to do things. So, learn to sub out certain things, plumbing, electrical, whatever. It really streamlines your process of flipping a property or just even renovating a property.
That's a good point. Most people think that they can do it all on their own, so it's nice to get some good help. What about the best advice you were given?
I'm not sure. I generally go with my gut on a lot of things. There's always people offering up information, coming to jobs and asking you why you did things this way or how you did things. I don't know. Go with your gut. That's how I judge things. So that's a good indication. There's certainly, you can get bits of information from everybody, but, try not to let people steer you in the wrong direction, I would guess.
And Steve, what would be the 3 tips you would advise a real estate investor when flipping a house?
In no particular order, don't pay too much for the property. Do your research and have an idea what you're going to sell it for once it's complete. Number 2, buy in an area will sell quickly, where people want to live. It's easier to sell a house in a downtown setting or a residential setting versus a country property. Number 3, always get a permit. Even if it doesn't require one, buyers like to know the research was done and things were done legitimately. So having a permit on hand is a great piece to have.
All right, that's great. Let's just go right into the permit issues. When would you get a permit and when wouldn't you get a permit?
Permits are required if you are moving walls, changing plumbing, doing electrical, etc. When you don't need a permit is if you're landscaping, if you're just simply replacing a roof, like shingling, replacing windows. As long as the hole sizes remain the same, you don't require any permits. Once you get into anything structurally, electrically, or plumbing, permits are certainly required.
Are there different types of permits?
There are several. There are new building permits, or renovation permits, demolition, plumbing, as well as electrical. Electrical deals with its own set of permits. It's not through the building department. And then if you're in a rural property, you're going to deal with the health board, where you're dealing with wells and septic tanks as well, septic systems.
All right. What about the pros and cons of obtaining a permit?
The cons are it slows down the process. If you're not familiar with how the process works, it adds time to your reno. So it can add weeks, it can add months if you don't have everything properly done. A pro, the inspector is another set of eyes, so they will let you know if you're doing things wrong or right. And on the resale side, the buyers like to see permits. They like to see that everything was done to code, done professionally. So it certainly helps get the property sold and gets what you're asking for the property.
All right. And what is needed? What are the steps that you need to do in order to get the permit?
First thing is either to be printed one off of line, or you go to your building department and pick one up. I prefer to get one in person, because if I have any questions, then I can ask the inspector right on site when I pick up the process, or pick up the app.
What do they ask for?
What's needed is proof of ownership of the property. They need to know who's doing the work. And for example, if the property is in the permitter's name, then you don't need any drawings. You don't need any engineered drawings, I should say. The owner can draw anything they want and submit it. If the permit is in the contractor's name or a renovator's name, it has to be engineered, it has to be stamped for the city to accept that.
So what do you prefer, having it under your name or under the owner's name?
It's a quicker process if it's under the owner's name. It just streamlines things. They ask for a lot less information. It still goes through the same engineering process, engineering department. If the permit is in the owner's name, it makes things a lot quicker.
Okay. And what about the 3 mistakes to avoid with a permit?
Number 1, only put down the work being inspected as far as price goes. When you fill out an application, it'll ask you the cost of the job. So only put down what's being inspected. If you put down the cost of the entire job, you'll end up paying more for the permit, and then you will be reassessed at a higher value when your property is reassessed. Number 2, don't give the inspector too much info. Don't lie or hide anything, but just give them what they want. Be to the point. Don't give them too much information. Don't run on and tell them how you want to do this and that. Number 3, if you encounter anything that doesn't meet current code, leave it be. If for example, if a stairwell doesn't meet current code or there's not enough ceiling height, you can uncover that, but as soon as you cut into it or modify it, then you have to bring things to current code. If you leave it as is, more often than not, the inspectors will not make you bring it to spec, bring it to current code. So that's a big tip, I would say. That's probably my biggest.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve. Thanks for watching. I've been talking with Steve Pickering, and we'll have his number down below if you have any questions or concerns with Steve. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.